Late-night television is supposed to be harmless. A laugh, a shrug, a release valve before bed. But sometimes, comedy doesn't punch up or down. It punches forward. That's what made this moment different. When Saturday Night Live aired Weekend Update and casually referenced images the public has never seen, it didn't land like a punchline. It landed like a signal. Because when Colin Jost jokes about photos that haven't surfaced, that aren't part of the online rumor mill, that aren't already debunked or dismissed, that's not satire. That's a warning shot. The implication wasn't subtle. These weren't the recycled images, not the mislabeled ones, not the fakes dragged around social media for years. The joke hinted at new visuals, allegedly circulating privately, connecting Meghan Markle to Prince Andrew's yacht circle long before Prince Harry, before royal titles, before the carefully curated reinvention. And once a show like SNL cracks that door, the story stops being fringe. It becomes a countdown. Let's strip the emotion out of this and talk logistics. Meghan Markle did not emerge from nowhere. Before the palace, before the monarchy, before the Netflix tears and victim narratives, she was a working actress navigating elite environments that most people, even successful ones, never touch. That's not shade. That's structure. Struggling or mid-level cable TV actors don't typically vacation in billionaire playgrounds, circulate through invitation-only yacht environments, or move freely inside private members' clubs tied to global power brokers unless someone opens those doors. And doors like that do not open randomly. This is where the so-called yacht girl rumors entered the conversation years ago, not as insults, not as slurs, but as industry shorthand. A quiet term used to describe women placed into elite leisure ecosystems where access itself is currency and proximity is the transaction. No one serious claims every yacht is a crime scene, but pretending elite yacht culture is just floating brunch with sunsets and selfies is willful ignorance. These environments are curated. Guest lists are vetted. Invitations are controlled. Men arrive knowing why they're there. Women arrive knowing what is expected, whether it's ever spoken aloud or not. And when Meghan Markle's name repeatedly orbits this same closed world, people stop asking if she was present. They start asking how early she entered it. That question stayed manageable as long as it was just yachts. It stops being manageable the moment Prince Andrew enters the frame. Because Andrew isn't controversial, he's radioactive. Multiple researchers and longtime royal commentators have alleged that Meghan Markle knew Prince Andrew before she ever met Prince Harry. Not through marriage, not through royal life, but through overlapping elite circles, through private spaces, through the same shadowed ecosystem Andrew has spent decades trying to outrun. And here's why that matters. If that connection predates Harry, then the outsider fairy tale collapses. The destiny narrative collapses. The idea of accidental romance collapses. Then this wasn't fate. It was positioning. That's not defamation. That's consequence. This topic stayed buried for years because it was inconvenient to too many powerful interests at once. Media silence doesn't happen over nothing. Editors don't bury irrelevance. Legal teams don't hover around fiction. Silence like this only exists when answering causes more damage than avoiding the question. And now, with a late-night show cracking the seal, even jokingly, the rules change. Comedy becomes the only place truth can leak without permission. A temperature check disguised as a punchline. And the audience didn't flinch. This wasn't exposure. It was a signal. The curtain lifted just enough for people to realize the stage was never empty, and that the origin story might not be as innocent as it was sold. Every story like this has a place where paths cross without witnesses. Not a courtroom, not a palace, not a red carpet. A room. A room with rules. No cameras, no press, no paper trail. And if you're tracing how obscure ambition turns into elite access, you eventually arrive at the same address again and again. Soho House. Not a restaurant, not a hotel, not a networking lounge. A gatekeeping machine. Soho House doesn't sell entry. It sells belonging. Membership is selective by design. Who you know matters more than who you are. And who decides who gets in determines everything. At the center of Meghan Markle's early orbit inside this ecosystem was Marcus Anderson. Not a casual friend. Not a plus one. Not background noise. He was the global membership director, the literal human key. The man who decided who had access to private dinners, secluded lounges, international locations, and most importantly, the people inside them. And yes, this is the same Marcus Anderson who later introduced Meghan Markle to Prince Harry. The same Marcus Anderson who appeared repeatedly in her inner circle. The same Marcus Anderson who was seated prominently at her wedding. And then quietly vanished. People don't disappear when everything is clean. They disappear when attention becomes dangerous. Because once people start asking how introductions happened and why, the entire networking illusion cracks. Suddenly access isn't destiny, it's design. This is where long-standing allegations re-enter the picture. Author and researcher Kirby Summers has claimed for years that photos exist showing Meghan Markle on a yacht in Phuket with Prince Andrew dating back to the early 2000s. And pause here because this is critical. She is not referring to the mislabeled or debunked images floating online.
She has been explicit about that.
She's referring to different photos. Photos she claims are already in the possession of mainstream media outlets, but have never been published. Now, ask yourself the uncomfortable question. If the photos don't exist, why does everyone behave like they do? Media doesn't sit on nothing. Editors don't bury irrelevance. Lawyers don't hover around fiction. Silence like this only happens when releasing something would damage multiple powerful interests simultaneously. That's why this story never dies. It just gets postponed. Until now. Because once comedians, cultural commentators, and institutional insiders start referencing what the public hasn't seen, pressure shifts. Suddenly, this isn't about rumor control. It's about time. The response that never came. Here's the tell nobody wants to acknowledge. If this narrative were completely false, not exaggerated, not messy, but outright fabricated, the response would be simple. You deny it.
You clarify it.
You shut it down cleanly. That didn't happen. Instead, what followed was silence, reshuffling, distance, legal posture, not transparency, containment. There was no direct denial of knowing Prince Andrew early. No clear timeline explaining elite access. No explanation for how a mid-level actress was consistently present in circles typically reserved for billionaires, royalty, and power brokers. Just nothing. And in media, silence is never neutral. Silence is strategy. It's the same playbook used when answering creates more damage than avoidance. When explaining opens doors better left closed. The person this hurts most. There's one figure quietly humiliated by this entire narrative. Prince Harry. Because the moment you introduce the possibility, even allegedly, that Meghan Markle knew Prince Andrew before she ever met Harry, the optics change permanently. Suddenly, Harry isn't the rescuer. He's the last man in the room to realize what room he walked into. That doesn't mean love isn't real, but it does mean innocence is gone. And once the public starts viewing a royal marriage through the lens of strategy instead of destiny, there is no reset button. Every interview shifts. Every origin story feels curated. Every emotional appeal gets reweighed. People keep asking why this didn't explode years ago. Because stories like this don't surface when they're dangerous. They surface when they're useful. For years, protecting the image benefited too many institutions. Questioning it meant lawsuits, access loss, and professional exile. But tides change. The public is tired of polished victimhood. The appetite for glossy rebrands is gone. And comedy has become the last place where truth can slip through without permission. When late-night jokes start circling a name, it means writers, editors, and producers already know where the fault lines are. They're just testing how ready the audience is. And the audience didn't flinch. This wasn't exposure. It was alignment, a pattern people were never meant to see all at once, now impossible to unsee.